And good morning, West Texas. 8:08 a.m. for final half hour of Dave King and Paul Bean filling in for Matt Martin. And as promised, we have in the house this morning John Osborne, who's the president and CEO of LEDA, Lubbock Economic Development Alliance.
That's
correct.
correct.
Got that right.
Yeah. Good morning.
Glad to have you here. We haven't been on the radio together in years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed listening to your show, though.
Well, good. And Paul is subbing for Matt this morning, but we have a lot to talk about. And I was asking you earlier, are you going to take credit for all this booming economy in Lubbock? I mean, after all, you are Lubbock Economic Development.
I tell you, things are really good and very positive here in Lubbock right now, and there's a lot of positive things happening.
Best ever, I imagine.
Yes, absolutely. In so many statistical categories, it absolutely is. But there's a lot of things that attribute to that, and so I think we're doing our fair share, and we're trying to make good things happen. But we've got some great things that are taking place in our community, and it's exciting to be here in Lubbock.
John, you inherited part of a great staff and have added a great staff at LEDA. Some of your right-hand people down there do an excellent job out in the business community, promoting Lubbock and attracting new business. However, on the front page of the local newspaper this morning, there was an ad about a slight dip in the economic index for this month from one of the local banks. And we're going to see those because of the terrific growth that we've experienced. I mean, there's got to be some natural slowdown in this growth, but it shouldn't be cause for alarm, should it?
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, you can take any one indicator and watch it, and it looks like the Grand Tetons. It just goes up and down all the time.
Right.
But in a general pattern, it's in a positive mode. Take the unemployment rate, for example. For the better part of the last couple of years, we've been hanging out very, very low historic rates. And in June, every year, it pops up just a little bit, sometimes a percentage point. So we go from some 2.5 to 3.5, or sometimes we're going from 3 to 4. But that little pop-up is an interesting stat from the standpoint that the state of Texas, when they're doing their analysis, they consider teachers to be unemployed as of June.
Right.
And I don't think any of our teachers consider themselves to be unemployed.
Well, right. No, because number one, they're all still getting paid.
That's right.
So how could they be unemployed if they're still getting paid? But that aside, you see some of those in college towns, don't you? Especially cities with large universities like Texas Tech, with the seasonal ebb and flow of the students in and out of school and taking part-time jobs. You see some of those fluctuation in numbers, don't you?
Sure, absolutely. And I was visiting on the plane the other day with a gentleman that has a restaurant here in town, and he said, it's obvious that the college students are out on summer break, that they're not here, both as workers and as consumers, and their spending and all. But one thing that is of benefit to us is the fact that we get about 6 million visitors a year, and they come primarily between February and November every year. We have drop-offs in numbers of visitors between December and January, but that many more visitors coming in, especially during the summertime, and helps try to take some of the buying power place of the loss of
I have
students.
heard that number before, and that's a big number. What draws 6 million people to Lubbock mostly?
Well, let me ask you this: what is the nickname of our city?
Well, we're the hub city.
We're the hub city, and why are we called the hub city?
Well, because we are the great big town out in the middle of a great big cotton patch.
That's right. If you look at a map and you look at an aerial of Lubbock, you see all these different roads coming into Lubbock, and they come from all different directions: east, west, north, south, northeast, northwest. Southeast, southwest.
My family over in eastern New Mexico, they love to come to Lubbock.
That's right.
Hospitals, doctors, the mall, shopping, restaurants.
So the reason for those roads is because people want to get their goods and services. And if you look at the number of visitors that are coming here on an annual basis, about 88% of them actually travel by car. The average distance traveled is 400 miles. So you start looking at a radius, just go out a couple hundred miles, and what do you have is a whole lot of small towns.
Right.
And so they don't have a furniture store there. They don't have office supply stores. And so when they are going to get those types of things, they got to go to Lubbock.
John, it's interesting when you start talking about people visiting Lubbock. One of the issues in visiting Lubbock is, of course, Texas Tech University.
Sure,
they are a
absolutely.
major engine in driving the visitation areas to Lubbock. But when you drive through the parking hospitals, the parking buildings, you see license plates from New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma. We're doing heart transplants here in Lubbock now. So the medical, the late Tom Martin, the mayor, the two-term mayor of Lubbock and a former city councilman, he said the economy of Lubbock was a three-legged stool. There was ag, and there was education, and then there was medicine. And do you find that basically true?
Those three industries continue to be our very big staple legs of our stool, if you want to call it that. But I do think that we are more legs than even just those. And I think the tourism industry is one of those. I think we have a significant manufacturing industry, all things considered, where manufacturing has been the last 20 years in the United States. I think we've got a tremendous financial services and business and professional services industry that's here in town. But obviously, when the ag economy is doing well, when the healthcare economy is doing well, or when our education community is doing well, that has tremendous benefit to Lubbock.
Well, on the downside, we've got to take in things like the drought. We're going to have to hurry to have a dryland cotton crop this year.
Well, remember back in 2011, we had the trifecta of things. We had all those fires and high heat, which was affecting our ag community. We had a change in our health care from a national system, going with Obamacare. And then we ended up also having some state budget cuts, which especially in the education arena, both in the secondary education and also in our university systems. And those things could have had a tremendous and did have a tremendous impact on Lubbock. If you look at our employment rates, they went up. If you looked at our overall GDP here in our community, it was going down. In that 11-12 time period. And it was just the trifecta of all those things happening to our major legs of our stool.
Yes, and I was on the council trying to hammer out a budget during all of that.
And there was nothing that we as Lubbock people could do.
Right.
That was all national stuff or natural things that were taking place that was affecting us.
It's 8:15. Let's take a quick break and come back on the other side.
We're going to talk about some other things with John Osborne, the boss man at LEDA, when we return here on the morning show.
And we're back. News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM. We are KFYO Mornings. It is 8:20, and we're visiting with John Osborne, the president and CEO of LEDA, the Lubbock Economic Development Association.
Alliance,
I'm sorry.
whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
What's in a word? John, there's a little bit of empty brick and mortar around. Talk about the impact of Amazon and now Walmart's advertising that they'll deliver it free the next day or 2 days. Is that having an impact, and do you see any long-range impact on what has been normally the norm in accepted retail advertising, which are brick and mortar?
Yeah, the retail is in this, just like all industries go through from time to time. There are big changes as a result of new technologies. And Amazon is, much as Walmart did back in the late 80s and early 90s, where they changed the retail landscape for so much of the United States, Amazon is in the process of doing the exact same thing. You mentioned empty brick and mortar spots. I was just actually in a meeting yesterday morning, 2 mornings ago, I guess it was, in which we were looking at some analysis of the real estate marketplace here in our community. And from a retail perspective, we have the most vacancy of any of the different classifications, industrial or office or retail. But it's not at 40%. It's not,
sure.
Right. It's still really, really good.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to the fact that it's a little bit of a challenge to get to Lubbock. And we're not right in the middle of the Texas Triangle. And so as a result, where other cities in our region are hurting from a retail perspective, a lot of that's because the people in those population base in those cities are coming to our community to shop. And so that's helping to keep us healthy. but it is definitely changing the landscape. What Amazon's doing and what others are doing from an online perspective, and it's definitely things that retailers have to pay attention to.
In some of these areas where people are mail ordering, there is from time to time a lack of sales tax being paid. Do you see that as an economic issue down the line somewhere where possibly some legislation is going to have to be put in place?
I think that legislation was last week, wasn't it?
I hadn't heard that because I was actually at Boy Scout camp last week with my older two sons in cool, comfortable Ardmore, Oklahoma, which is neither cool nor comfortable. But nevertheless, I will say that the state governments and local governments are really grappling with how do we handle this new technology, this online technology.
It can have a major impact all the way down to the city level.
That's right.
Because of the lack of sales tax collections, and that's going to be an issue that one of these days somebody's going to have to say, "Hey, it's got to stop."
Yeah. It's definitely something that
they're addressing.
Governments
there was a big story
are very much
about that
looking
last
at
week, if you order online, you're going to have to pay the sales tax. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Well, in some instances you do, some instances you don't.
Well, I'll say you're going to have to.
You're going to have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that my understanding is, like, if you order something from Amazon, if it comes from Texas, you pay sales tax.
Right.
If the product comes from out of state, you pay no sales tax.
But that's also not necessarily true. You can order from Amazon and be with one of those independent sellers, and I don't know what they're called, but there's people that sell on Amazon.
Right.
And if they don't have a store in Texas, then you're not paying sales tax on that.
Yeah,
and that's I'm telling you that's going to be an issue that's going to impact the ability of local governments, to provide the things they've been historically saddled with providing, such as streets and water and sewer,
exactly,
and all of the other infrastructure which is so critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about the way of life in Lubbock. Living costs are. I have a friend who lived in Lubbock for many, many years, has moved into the Metroplex, hoping very soon he'll be able to move back. But he said expenses down here are just killing me. He said things are so much cheaper in Lubbock than they are down here. And is that a cause for our growth?
I use more affordable. I don't use cheaper. Because cheaper implies that it'll break easier.
Yes, there you go.
It's definitely more affordable to be here in Lubbock, and in so many ways. And there's we have traditionally been below the national average. We've been traditionally below the Texas average, and we've traditionally been below the major metropolitan areas. And that makes that and the fact that we have a fantastic commute time, and yet we still have places to shop and places to eat and fun things to do for families makes this an attractive place to be, which is one reason why we continue to see such phenomenal growth in our population base. The city, you remember this, you were on council at the time when the census numbers came out, and the city was surprised at how much it had grown between 2000 and 2010. And I think we're going to see something along those same lines as we start to see the 2020 numbers come out.
That's exactly where I wanted to go with a question. We are hearing all this news, particularly about California, how people are leaving California in droves.
Oh, absolutely.
And coming to Texas. And not only from California, but from other states. People are wanting to move to Texas. And I'm wondering, are we beginning to see, or do we see that growth in Lubbock?
Absolutely. In fact, my study's a little dated. It was 2012 numbers, and we did the study in 2013. I don't have updated numbers since then. But obviously, the people when you look at the IRS data that shows where people are filing from the previous year and then where they file from the next year, you can see that for Lubbock, people are moving from the region. They're moving from Dallas. They're moving from Austin. And then they're moving next from New Mexico. And then, interestingly, there's a tremendous amount of people moving from the greater Los Angeles area and also from the Las Vegas area. And so what you're seeing is people are wanting to get out of these high-cost, high-traffic areas, and they're wanting to get back to a place where there's great family values, where there is an affordable place to be, where they can still get to the fun places that they want to go.
Yeah.
We have plenty of direct flights that go.
How long is it going to be until we become one of those high-rent places?
As they said in Green Acres, I hate Manhattan, just give me that countryside. Quickly, Port to Plains.
Yes.
We've got just a second.
Absolutely, yes.
What's the status?
With Ports to Plains, actually, we've had some changes here recently. Michael Reeves, who served us for so many years and did such a fantastic job, has decided to take a look at another opportunity, and so we wish him all the best. We still have Duffy and Joe still on the staff. We are in the process of we've been to D.C. quite often, and we're headed to Austin with the legislative session coming up, and hopes of extending I-27.
Well, that's going to about wrap it up, John. As we're up against the clock, but man, we could have had you on for a whole hour easily.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll do it again. It is coming up on 8:29, and that's going to put a bow on the show for a Thursday edition. And we want to thank Paul Bean for working yesterday and today. I think Rob Snyder will be here tomorrow. We want you to go out there and have a wonderful day, everybody.